Azelf Alkmaar fighting for the cup. What is up guys, Mineworker Lennart here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about our drafting. As I told you in the announcements video, every team drafted 11 mons. And the way in which we did it is we randomly gave everyone a turn. So someone was first, another one was second, and so on and so on until number 12. And those people could pick their first Pokemon in order. So the first person picked their first Pokemon, the second person their second, and I actually ended up being sixth. So the sixth turn, it was my turn, and I picked as my first Pokemon Mamoswine. And I will explain why I went with Mamoswine, because you might think, well, Mamoswine, it's UU. Why do you pick it as your first Pokemon? Because there's so many good Pokemon out there. As that's somewhat true, I still believe Mamoswine is one of the best Pokemon in this format, because it really can do a lot of stuff. First of all, it's a very trustworthy Stealth Rocker, because it learns Stealth Rock. And with his ability Oblivious, this Pokemon cannot be taunted. So if my opponent does not know about Oblivious, or he's expecting me to go for Thick Fat, I can get up my Stealth Rocks pretty much for free, because it will break through the taunt, which is really good. Something else that Mamoswine does really well. Mamoswine hits really hard with the Choice Band. Give it Ice Shard, give it a Choice Band, and it will be your revenge killer quite often, because Ice is a really good offensive typing in the competitive Pokemon. What's also really nice about Mamoswine is if you slap a Choice Scarf on it. Mamoswine has base 80 speed, so paired with a Choice Scarf it will outspeed quite a lot of stuff. And his base 130 attack will be sufficient enough to hit really hard and to get a kill every now and then. So that was my first pick. I also picked this Pokemon because 5 people could pick before me, and some of those picks were Landorus T, Landorus I, Heatran, I don't know, Mamoswine just paired up really well against everything that was chosen. So I'm glad with this pick, even though it's a tier 2 pick. In the first round, I still believe it was a good pick, because in my opinion I have the best tier 2 pick in my team, which I'm really excited for. So the rest of the turn continued all the way up to person number 12, and what happened over there is that the order flipped over. So the person who in the first round chose 12th could now pick their Pokemon first, and the one who picked their Pokemon 11th could go second, and so on and so on. So this time around I was 7th in the picking order, and I thought, well, I've got Mamoswine now, I'm really glad with it, but now I want to really get a really diverse mon, something that could pretty much do anything. So it will not be expected too easily what this Pokemon is going to bring when it's getting sent onto the field. And I think one of the Pokemon who does this best is actually Hydreigon. So about Hydreigon. Hydreigon has some really good special attack. It's 125. It also has a decent enough attack to use it every once in a while with 105. He has 98 speed, which is a little bit too slow for me, because it just doesn't break that 100 base speed, unfortunately, but it's no problem, because after being Choice Scarfed it will outspeed a lot of stuff, and Hydreigon isn't the worst Pokemon to put a Choice Scarf on, because his move pool is really diverse. It of course gets really good stab in Dragon Meteor, Dragon Pulse, Dark Pulse and that kind of stuff, but it also gets Aqua Tail, it gets Earth Power, it gets Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Flash Cannon, Head Smash, what else do we have? Ice Fang even, Signal Beam, Rock Slide, Superpower, Sand Headbutt, U-turn, which is really important. It gets taunt, it gets Thunder Wave. There's so much you can do with this Pokemon, and that's something I really like. You can use him as an offensive pressure, maybe Choice Scarf or Specs or whatever else. But with his base 92 HP, 90 defense and 90 special defense, it's also somewhat viable as a defensive Pokemon. You can easily maybe slap an Assault Vest on it and have, give it 4 attacking moves, so its special defense will vastly increase. So you can use it as a bit of a hard-hitting, especially defensive wall, which is also really good. So I'm excited for this Pokemon. Again, it's UU and it's my tier 1 pick, but I'm still excited for it because it's tier 1 for a reason. It's so diverse, it has a lot of potential, and I think it will do really good in this format. So the turn 2 ended after a while, and then the order got reversed again. This is what happens all the time. So first person 1 till 12 will pick their Pokemon in order, and the turn after 12 to 1. This continues the whole time. So I was 6th again, and I thought, well, Hydreigon can be used as a defensive Pokemon in some cases. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to get a Pokemon which could be a really strong core paired with Hydreigon. So I was wondering, well, Hydreigon is weak to Ice, it's weak to Fighting, it's weak to Bug, it's weak to Dark, and it's weak to Fairy ×4. So you need something which resists all those stuff and hits some of those stuff super effective back. So I was going through the lists again and again, and I actually found one Pokemon who fit that role really good. And that Pokemon is called Doublade. Doublade is, I think, one of my most favorite picks in the entire draft for a couple of reasons. The first reason is its resistances. It has a lot, and all of its resistances are paired really well with what Hydreigon is weak to, and the other way around goes the same, because Doublade is weak to ground, which Hydreigon is immune to thanks to the Levitate ability, and it's weak to fire. Hydreigon resists fire as well. It's weak to dark, it's weak to ghost. Hydreigon resists it as well, and Doublade is actually immune to fighting, which Hydreigon is weak to. So these two Pokemon pair up really well. And if we look at the stats of Doublade, the first thing you see is the defense. The defense is through the roof. It's base 150, and since Doublade isn't fully evolved yet, because Aegislash is the final Pokemon in this evolution line, you can slap an Eviolite on this thing. This will be the most commonly run item on this Pokemon. But after an Eviolite, his defense is just insane, and his special defense of base 49, which isn't that good, also gets bumped up to be viable again. So it's actually pretty viable to just go, for instance, max special defense. And as you can see here, his special defense goes up for a bit, and his defense itself is already really high. So now you have a bit of a mixed wall with that Eviolite on it. Abilities, it just gets no guard, so that's something to keep in mind. Your opponent might use this to land Will-O-Wisps, land Rock Slide, whatever my opponent wants to do, their attacks are going to hit as well, so it's something to keep in mind. About the moveset of this Pokemon, his moveset isn't too diverse, but I am most likely going to use it as a defensive Pokemon, so I don't really need that much diversity in my attacking moves. It gets toxic like any Pokemon, but what I really like about this Pokemon is the move called Gyro Ball. Let's look at Gyro Ball. Gyro Ball has more power the slower the user is than the target. So if we go back to the stats, we see here a 35 base speed, which is really slow, especially if I make something like a sassy nature, so its speed goes even down lower. this Pokemon at level 100 has only 67 speed, which is really low. So Gyro Ball will get boosted more and more and more as we're slower than the opponent. And with our base 110 physical attack, Gyro Ball is gonna hit really hard, especially after maybe Sword Stance, because we can set up with a lot of Sword Dances, because it also gets Shadow Sneak. So we will be faster if we need to be faster. So I really like this Pokemon. It's not that diverse, but it pairs up so well with Hydreigon. I couldn't let it slip further down. I had to pick it up in my third turn. So a lot of other stuff got picked, and a lot of those stuff were fairies. Mega Gardevoir was gone, Mega Diancie was gone, Clefable was gone, Sylveon was gone. And I saw a trend. Everyone was picking up the fairies, so I was like, alright, I have to get a fairy in this turn because they're all gone, because there aren't that much fairies in the game, which is quite unfortunate, but we had to go with a fairy. So again, we already had a Hydreigon and a Doublade, which is a dragon and a steel type. And I thought, well, what pairs a dragon and steel type better? That's a fairy type. So I wanted to make the final addition to my core and make a dragon steel fairy core. So I thought, well, what's a good fairy Pokemon on the defensive side? Well, we have Florges, which is really specially defensive, also has some offensive pressure, but I wanted to dip a little lower because I saw a fairy in tier 5, which name is Granbull. And Granbull is, I think, pretty much overlooked in these type of tournaments, because if we look at its stats, it has base 120 physical attack, which is really high. People seem to forget about that, but it can hit really hard with stuff like Play Rough, Close Combat, Earthquake. It has a lot of physical attack and potential. He has base 90 HP, which is alright, not too best. And his defense and special defense are a little bit too low in my opinion as well. But if you look at his ability that I'm mainly going to run, Intimidate, he is all of a sudden a viable option to be a defensive wall, because you can send it in on a Pokemon, his attack will get lowered, and then the base 75 defense won't matter as much because it will feel as though its defense is a lot higher. The defensive side of the fairy type is also something I really like. Dark is really common, knockoffs all over the place. Fighting is really common, and fairy both resist those stab. So that's really nice. In terms of his other abilities, he gets Quick Feet, which I don't think I'm going to use, because with base 45 speed and a speed boost times 1.5 is still not fast enough to outspeed base 100s, which are really common. And then the last ability is Rattled. This Pokemon speed is raised by 1 stage if it's hit by a Bug, Dark or Ghost type attack, which is also not that viable, because I don't think after 1 speed boost Granbull will actually outspeed stuff, so mostly Intimidate. Then further about my moveset, I told something about Close Combat, about Earthquake, about Play Rough. It gets a lot of hard hitting moves, but this isn't the only thing it can do. It also gets Heal Bell, which is amazing, I believe, because my Granbull can now function as a cleric. Maybe somewhere down the road my Mamoswine gets burned, or my Doublade gets burned, or whatever else, and I want to make sure that that's not the case anymore. I can send on my Granbull, I can go for a Heal Bell, and boom, all the status ailments on my team are just vanished, which is amazing. It gets Roar, so it can phase out a lot of stuff. It gets Super Fang, which always does half damage to the opponent. So for instance, they have 100 HP left, I do 50 HP all the time, which is really, really nice, because you can really break down those walls for a bit and make it possible for other Pokemon to KO them later. It gets Super Power, it gets Taunt, it gets Thunder Wave, which is really, really nice in my opinion in this format, because speedy Pokemon will most likely end your life. What can you do to stop speedy Pokemon? You can try to outspeed it, but you can also try to paralyze it so it will be slower than everything else. And since fast Pokemon are more likely to be frail than bulky, this Pokemon can be KO'd by pretty much anything in return. So this is really nice. I picked up my fairy, I was glad. Unfortunate that I had to pick it in the 4th turn already, because it is a tier 5 and it is considered a bit weaker, but it's still one of the better tier 5s in my opinion, especially since it's fairy type. And knowing the fairy type is quite scarce in that manner. So that's my 4th pick. 5th round. I looked at my core and I was like, wow, this core is really good. They can really depend upon each other. But what happens if I predict wrong at one point in a game and one of my Pokemon from my core nearly go down? I don't want to have that. I want to give them maybe a second life. So I was looking at a Pokemon who could learn Healing Wish, because I really like the move. It's really strong, especially in this format, because if you know one of your Pokemon can do so much to your opponent's team, it's just it's just so good to give it a second life, because you will most likely win that battle if your opponent has no answers for that Pokemon. So I was looking around, Healing Wish, not a lot of Pokemon can learn the move. For instance, Latios was already taken in, I believe, the 1st round already, so it was long gone. But there was one Pokemon who was pretty much overlooked up until this point, and that Pokemon was called Shaman. And I really like Shaman. Shaman is one of those legendaries with base 100s all over the board, so you can go offensive, you can go defensive, you can maybe go Choice Scarf, and you will outspeed a lot of stuff. So there are a lot of options in there. Its ability is Natural Cure, which says this Pokemon has its major status condition cured when it switches out, which is really good, because if I want to go for a more defensive approach, my opponent most likely wants to give me a status ailment like a burn or a toxic or whatever else to just try to chip me down all the way to 0. But I can then switch out at any time I want, and my status ailment will be cured instantly, which is, I think, somewhat broken if your opponent doesn't have an answer for a defensive grass type, but it's really good and I like it. As far as its moves go, it gets aromatherapy, so I have another cleric on my team, so I have a lot of options. I don't have to bring Grumble with Heal Bell if I don't want to. I can also bring Shame with aromatherapy, which is really nice. It gets quite some coverage. It gets Air Slash, it gets Dazzling Gleam, it gets Earth Power, Healing Wish, as I said before, which is probably going to be on its in this move pool every time I bring it. It gets Leash Sheet, which is really nice if you want to go more defensively. It gets Psychic. It gets Swords Dance if you want to go physical, which is also an option because it is base 100 attack. It gets Synthesis, it gets Tailwind, but one of the more broken moves, you could say, is Seed Flare. Seed Flare is pretty much a grass Fire Blast. It's base 120 power, it has 85 accuracy, so it will miss every now and then, but most of the time it will hit. But its secondary effect is just ridiculous. It has a 40% chance to lower the target's special defense, not by 1, but by 2. A 40% chance, that's almost half of the times your opponent will get a special defense drop by 2. If you then go for Seed Flare again, this Seed Flare will do twice as much damage and has another 40% chance to lower the target's special defense by 2. If this happens, my opponent's Pokemon will most definitely have to switch out, because you can't keep a Pokemon on the field with -2 or even -4 special defense. This move is so broken, it's pretty much going to be standard on my Shaman, I'll tell you right now. So Healing Wish, Seed Flare, and 2 other options for whatever else I want to bring. So I really like this Pokemon. This was my 5th pick, I believe. Yeah, my 5th pick. So let's talk about my 6th pick right now. So I was looking at my team. I had my defensive core quite built alright, but I still wanted another rocker because I didn't want my Mamoswine to be dependent on bringing stealth rocks every time I needed stealth rocks, because that's too predictable. So I wanted to look for an offensive Pokemon with a high base speed, above 110 was my goal, and that Pokemon also should get stealth rocks. So I was looking around and around and around, and which better Pokemon to fulfill this role than our own mascot, Azelf Alkmaar. I'm gonna type out his nickname already because I'm excited for this season, and I really want to win. I want to give him my best. So there it is. Azelf, team mascot. It couldn't be better. Look at its stats. It gets 125 base attack, 125 base special attack, and 115 speed. And this is not a glass cannon. It has 75 base HP, 70 base defense, and 70 base special defense. So yeah, it isn't a defensive wall, it isn't a specially defensive wall, but it is not frail enough that it will die to one hit no matter what, which is really amazing. And its base 115 speed, it's really gonna save us, because there aren't that many Pokemon who are faster than base 110 speed. So Azelf is a great addition to the team. I already said we've got Stealth Rocks. It has a really good move pool on the specially offensive side. It has Dazzling Gleam, it has Energy Ball, it has Fire Blast, Flamethrower, it has Psychic, it has Shadow Ball, Signal Beam, Thunderbolt and Thunder, which is already good. On the physically offensive side, there's Acrobatics, so maybe if I lose my item, maybe my Colbur Berry after a knockoff, I lose my Colbur Berry, I can go for an Acrobatics and it will boost to be 110. I can see that happening. I've got Explosion, which is also always fun, especially with normal gem, because it will just KO something instantly. There's Facade for if I get Toxic or anything. It's Fire Punch, it has Ice Punch, it has Knockoff, which is really good. Power Punch maybe, Thunder Punch, it has U-Turn and Zen Headbutt, and U-Turn is really nice because yeah, full turn action is always good in this league, because you get you can quite simply get momentum in the game and send something out which pairs better against your opponent's Pokemon, which is really good. I'm excited for this pick, Azelf. It's the mascot. I want to see him to do some work, and I'm very excited. Next up, we have pick number 7, and this pick, I was thinking about it about quite some time, and I didn't really have a defogger or spinner, and I definitely wanted a spinner. So this was, I guess, the point at which the drafting got a little bit wonky for me. Up until now, I was very glad with everything I got. I really like my team so far, but I was on the fence about whether to take Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, or Hitmontop as my spinner. I really wanted to have one of those three because I wanted to have Stab Close Combat, because Stab Close Combat is amazingly strong in competitive play, because Close Combat is fighting type. Fighting is super effective against a lot of Pokemon, and if you give it some stab, it's even stronger. So I should have gone for Hitmontop. I believe Hitmontop gets Intimidate, but I went for Hitmonlee because I looked at this ability, and the first thing I thought was a sweep. I want to sweep with this thing so much, and it's pretty possible to go for a sweep. For instance, it has the Unburden ability. Speed is doubled on held item loss, and the boost is lost if it switches. So if you want to trigger Unburden, you can go Fake Out Normal Gem. Fake Out will be boosted because of the normal gem, and after your normal gem is consumed, your Unburden boost will take place. So you will have a lot of speed, you will pretty much outspeed the rest of your opponent's team. You can go Adamant Nature for extra hitting power. You can give it Close Combat, maybe Knock Off, and maybe Bullet Punch or Mach Punch, or to be sure you outspeed everything. This is a really nice set, but the downside to it is it is predictable. My opponent knows that I have to consume my item in order for the Unburden ability to take place. And there are only a couple of ways you can do it. You can use a normal gem, or you can use a berry, but the berry is most often being paired with a move like Endure, because you will survive at least 1 HP, so you know your berry will get popped, and you will not just die. So it's pretty predictable. It does get Rapid Spin, as I said, but I don't really think Rapid Spin is going to be one of the best moves on this Pokemon, because if you look at this base HP and base defense, you will see it does not want to take a physical attack, it will just drop. This is a typical example of a glass cannon, except for the base 110 special defense, which is really good, but on the physical side it's just gonna die. And yeah, it's not the best spinner in the game, in that opinion, in that way, in my opinion. Because in my opinion, the best spinners are a little bit more defensive, so they can take a hit and rapid spin everything away. So maybe I should have picked Hitmontop. I'm still excited for this Pokemon because at least I will get one sweep, I know for sure. I'm banking on it, I really want to. But for rapid spinning, it's not the best. So in hindsight, I think I should have picked something else, but oh well, what happened happened. Alright, turn 8. I got a rapid spinner, so I know at this point, if I want to bring hazards on the field, I don't have to defog everything away from my side, and from their side I can just spin everything from only my side away, which is really nice if you want to hazard stack your opponent. Because I was looking at the drafts, and oh boy, there were so many defensive teams being drafted. All the defensive Stally Pokemon were all gone. Suicune, Cresselia, Gliscor, pretty much everything with a lot of bulk was drafted at this point. So I thought, I want to have one Pokemon which can hazard stack the fuck out of them. So I was looking at Greninja. Greninja is tier 3. And Greninja has some nice options for hazard stacking. It gets Toxic Spikes and regular Spikes. And since Greninja is quite an offensive pressure, with base 103 special attack and base 122 speed, which is ridiculously fast, there could be situations where my opponent will think, oh, I don't want to take a Scald or a Dark Pulse or whatever else, because Greninja is just a really powerful Pokemon. I'm gonna switch out and again get up a free layer of Spikes or Toxic Spikes, which is, I think, really nice. The base 122 speed will help me outspeed pretty much anything in this league. There are a few exceptions like Jolteon, Aerodactyl, Pokemon like those, but the base 122 speed is almost untouched. I will outspeed almost anything with this Pokemon if I want to, with, as I said, a few exceptions. Something to note. Protean Greninja is banned in this format, but Torrent Greninja isn't. So every match I bring Greninja, I have to go with Torrent. So that's a downside, and that's why it's tier 3. But still, with the Torrent ability, it is very good, because offensively it gets a lot. It gets, on especially offensive side, it gets Blizzard, Dark Pulse, Extrasensory, Grass Knot, Ice Beam. It gets Scald, which is the best move in the game. So really a lot. And on the physical offensive side, it gets Acrobatics as well. It gets Facade, it gets Gunk Shot, which is really strong against fairies because they might not see it coming from a dark water type, but Gunk Shot is gonna hit them really hard and could KO a fairy here and there. It gets Ice Punch, it gets Low Kick, which is really nice for those big, heavy defensive types, which are quite often steel type as well, so it will be super effective. They will be a lot heavier than me because Greninja is just a little frog, it doesn't weigh that much, and Low Kick will have a really high base power. It gets Rock Slide, it gets Shadow Sneak as priority, and again the Spikes and Toxic Spikes, as I said before. It also gets Taunt. There's a lot of options, but most likely it will be a fast hazard stacker, or it will be a fast sweeper with 1 or 3 special attack, maybe choice specs, because I will be faster than everything anyway. So Greninja, I'm quite excited for this pick. I think it's a good pick. I think it is one of the best ways to fight defensive, stally teams, to just hazard stack them and make sure they can't defog if I go for Taunt as his third move. So the hazard will stay there, and they can't go for Calm Minds or Recovers or whatever else if I taunt them. So Greninja is pretty much my annoying stally Pokemon stop. Next up, pick number 9. We were almost finished with the draft, 3 more picks to go, and there were quite a lot of people who hadn't picked their Mega yet. So I was like, I don't want to wait until the entire end, because maybe I will get sniped there. Let's just get it now, let's get it over with. I want to grab my Mega. And the Mega I decided to go with was Mega Pinsir. So, why Mega Pinsir? Mega Pinsir is annoyingly strong. It has, let's see, 155 base attack and 105 base speed. The 105 base speed will make sure I outspeed a lot of stuff on my opponent's team, because breaking the 100 speed barrier is really good. There are a couple of Pokemon which are faster than that, but if I get to eliminate those faster Pokemon at the beginning of the game, Mega Pinsir can sit in the back, wait till all those Pokemon are eliminated, then gets switched in, and with the base 155 attack I can start to sweep. So, Mega Pinsir is ridiculously strong, as I said before. And that is because of its air relate ability. This Pokemon's normal type moves become flying type and have base, or not base, it has a multiplier of 1.3. So every normal type move becomes flying type and gets boosted by 1.3. After the moves get to be a flying type, they'll get a stab bonus because I'm bug flying. So the 1.3 is multiplied by the 1.5 again. You can see a trend in here. It's stacking upon stacking upon stacking. And his move pool is amazing. Double Edge, base power 120, accuracy 100%, air relate times 1.3 times 1.5. It's gonna hit like a truck. It gets Facade. If it gets burned, it gets Earthquake, it gets close combat, it gets knockoff, it gets quick attack for priority, which is also going to be air relay boosted. If my opponent has maybe an extreme speed or something which goes faster than a +1 priority, I can always go for a feint. This is pretty much a weaker quick attack, but it's not a +1 priority, but it's I believe +2 or 3. I believe +3 priority, which is pretty much faster than any move in the game, except for the defensive type moves like Protect, Detect, all that kind of stuff. So Feint is only there if my opponent decides to go for maybe extreme speed or Prankster, Thunder Wave if they want to be faster. But most oftenly I'll just go for quick attack for that just slight 10 base power more. And what else do we have in this Pokemon? Yeah, it's most likely going to be just offensively really fast with a lot of base attack to outspeed my opponent and just KO it. I also have a lot of fun moves in here. I have Stealth Rocks. I don't think I'm gonna bring it, but who knows? My opponent definitely will not expect a Stealth Rocking Mega Scissor. Stone Edge, Storm Throw could be really fun because it always results in a critical hit. So if my opponent has a lot of defense boosts, and I know my opponent is gonna go for it, I can just send out Mega Pinsir, go for a Storm Throw. It will always be a critical hit, and maybe I can tear down some walls with this. I also get Swords Dance, which will be used quite often, I believe, because it's just gonna raise my attack more and more and more, up until the point that just quick attacks will do brutal damage on their own. One of the downsides of Mega Pinsir is its vast weakness to stealth rocks. Every time I send in my Mega Pinsir, I get 50% stealth rocks. So hazard control is really important when I bring this Pokemon on the field, and this was the point I kind of realized, well, maybe I should have gone for a more defensive spinner, because now if I bring Mega Pinsir, I have to bring a Hitmonlee with Rapid Spin, and Hitmonlee doesn't want to bring Rapid Spin. Hitmonlee wants to have a lot of attack, it wants to sweep, it wants to dish out damage, but we'll have to see how we compensate for that in the rest of the draft. Maybe we'll try to solve it later with the free agency picks, which I'm gonna explain later. For now, let's just move on to our 10th tier pick. So I had 2 more free slots with a total of, I believe, 180 points. So I could pick at this point, the only way in which I could use all of my points was if I picked a tier 2 and a tier 4 Pokemon, because tier 4 costs 60 points and tier 2 costs 120 points. So this was also what I wanted to do. First, I looked at tier 4s, because I believe tier 4s have one of the best Pokemon to use in this format, because they all have their own little niche. They are really well in what they're doing, and they're not as known because they're more commonly from tiers like RU and NU, so they're not that well known for what they do, and I can surprise the people a bit with such Pokemon. So I was looking through the tiers. A lot of Pokemon were already taken, but when I looked at my team, I saw that I do not have a strong fire type yet. And I think a strong fire type is really necessary, because there's stuff like Scizor flying around, a lot of grass types, a lot of bugs. As weird as it sounds, but there were a lot of bugs taken. Steel types. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, so sometimes you'll hear me snorting a bit, but that's why. So I was looking through the tier list, and my eye fell upon a little piggy, which name is Emboar. And Emboar is, in my opinion, amazing. It's not that speedy, base 65 speed, but if you go Jolly Nature, max speed, Choice Scarf, you will outspeed your opponent, and with a base 123 attack stat, it is nothing to laugh at, because Flare Blitzes, Wild Charges, so it's Flame Charge, which is also quite fun if you don't want to go Choice Scarf, but you have Wild Charges, you have Superpowers, what else do we have? We have Gyro Ball if we want to go a negative speed nature. We have Head Smash, which is really powerful. We have Heavy Slam, more power the heavier the user than the target. Well, this pig is quite heavy, it's not the heaviest, but it can do some work against really light Pokemon. We have Iron Head, we have Low Kick, we have Power Punch, Rock Slide, Sucker Punch as priority, which a lot of people don't know about, which I'm really excited for. It has Superpower, as I told you, it has Thunder Punch, it has Senhepet, so it really has a lot of coverage, and a lot of people don't know that about Emboar. They're just expecting, alright, Flare Blitz, maybe Superpower, Hammer Arm, just a fire, fighting type moves, and some people also know about Wild Charge, but that is about it. Earthquake, of course, is pretty obvious for such a Pokemon, but something else I want to add is its Reckless ability. Reckless. This Pokemon's attacks with recoil or crash damage have 1.2 times the power. This is for moves like Flare Blitz, like Wild Charge, like Head Smash, like all those moves get an additional boost. Let's see, 252 attack. At level 100, this goes to 379. Let's actually set it to 50 because we will battle at level 50. It goes to 192 attack. It's almost 200 attack. Then we have a Stab Flare Blitz with a Reckless boost. This thing is gonna be so strong. It's gonna be my main wall breaker, because it doesn't need speed against all those defensive walls. It just needs to hit really hard, and that's something that Emboar does really well. So I'm very excited for this pick. I think I'm gonna bring it a lot of times, even though it's tier 4 and even though it's one of my final picks. I think it's one of my best picks, and I'm really excited for it. Alright, at this point in the draft, the drafting took a little bit longer than planned, so I actually had to go away for a vacation, so I didn't really know what else I needed to pick. I didn't really have internet at all times because it was most often hiking or whatever else. So my final pick is, I think, my worst pick. I still needed the tier 2. A lot of tier 2s were already taken though. I had like maybe 4 choices. I had Feraligatr, I had Blissey, which, yeah, Blissey went through my mind, but I'm not the best defensive player, and I already had a defensive core with Hydreigon, Doublade, Shaymin and Gramble, so I didn't want to pick a 5th defensive Pokemon, because I also believe that stuff like Blissey is a setup fodder in this format. It's very easy to get up Dragon Dances or something if I don't pack Thunder Wave, and I don't want to pack that move every week because I don't want to be too predictable. So Blissey kind of drifted off my mind and I went with something else. I picked Diggersby, and at first Diggersby looks like an amazing Pokemon, and it is, but I don't think it's that good for my team. Well, Diggersby is known for its huge power, not not in a way that's very strong, which it is, but its ability is called Huge Power. And the funny thing about this is Huge Power doubles the attack stat, so not the base 56, it doesn't go to 112, but it means the final attack stat, so what's over here. So if we go Adamant, for instance, this whole 118 gets a ×2 multiplier, so it goes to math 236. I believe that's right, yeah. 236, which is really a lot. And then with stab moves as Earthquake, Facade, Quick Attack, a lot of moves. It also gets a lot of coverage like Wild Charge, U-Turn, Thunder Punch, Superpower, Stone Edge, Rock Slide, Power Punch, Knockoff, Low Kick, Gunk Shot, which is really nice, Foul Play, which is not gonna be used that much, I believe. But it is really good at what it's doing, but I believe it's a little bit similar to what Hitmonlee does. Hitmonlee wants to hit very hard, it wants to hit faster every now and then, because Diggersby is most likely going to be run with the Choice Scarf. It's Diggersby's main job is to outspeed stuff and kill something with its huge attack stat, and I believe it's kind of similar to Hitmonlee and maybe Mega Pinscher 2 a bit. So I didn't really need such a Pokemon who was a physical sweeper, because I believe I have a lot of potential for physical sweeping. Maybe Doublade with Shadow Sneak Sword Stance. Azelf could be physical. So this was actually not the best way to end the draft. And looking back at my 11 Pokemon of Hydreigon, Mamoswine, Doublade, Shaymin, Hitmonlee, Granbull, Mega Pinscher, Azelf, Greninja, Emboar and Diggersby, I was pretty sure that I was gonna make team transactions after the first battle already, because I wanted to change my team up a little bit. I like my team a lot overall, but there are just a couple of stuff which can be a little bit better, I believe. But I will tell you more about that something later. Pretty much over the whole season you can make 3 team transactions. You can pick 3 Pokemon from your team and you can replace them with other Pokemon which aren't picked yet, but I will tell something more about that later. So this was my drafting video. If you have any questions about the way we drafted or about my team in general, feel free to ask them in the comments below. I will answer all of your questions. And if you're hyped for the season, for the first battle coming Sunday, then please hit that like button. Comment down below how much excited you are, how much wins we're going to take, make a prediction here and there, and feel free to subscribe so you stay updated with the videos and all the battles. Wish me good luck next Sunday and see you later. Bye bye.